is the minutes of our previous meeting from 10/21 of 19, copies of which are in the meeting packets. Any revisions or corrections to the minutes necessary? If not, a motion to approve the minutes would be appropriate. Motion by, is that a motion, Pat?
Yeah, I would move to approve. I have a question on, I
Okay,
guess,
let me get a second first. Becky's, okay, so a motion by Peckham, second by McElhaney. Go ahead.
the discussion we had about the tavern report on M&R Station last time, and we talked about, because of the kind of a double violation of being open after hours and trying to conceal the fact that they were open after hours. There was a discussion of whether or not that was two violations, and I think it was Deputy Chief Barnes who was going to speak with Mike Felder about it. I wonder if the chief know how that was resolved?
Can we ask, why don't we take that out during the tavern report?
That'd be
Can we
fine.
take it during this month's tavern report?
Whenever it's most appropriate.
Okay, well, let's approve the minutes first, and we have a tavern item, so we can ask him that under that separate item. Okay, all right, so with a motion and a second on the floor then, to approve the minutes, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? None are opposed, the minutes are approved. Item number 2 is to consider approval or denial of various license applications. You have all of those applications in the packets. There is one denial recommendation, I believe, or is there two? Okay, well, we had a deferral also. So we have one recommended for denial, which is Shawnette Walker. Is Shawnette Walker in the audience tonight? Okay. Shawnette, if you'd like to come up and talk to the committee about anything on your record that may be factually inaccurate. It looks like the recommendation from the police department is to deny
What does that mean?
the license.
Oh, yes. So it said to bring, I was a little confused on the rehabilitation and fitness, the examples that it had given, considering I'm not on parole and I've never been in the Army. So why they denied it was because back in June, I had gotten a ticket for obstructing an officer, supplying alcohol to a minor, and a disorderly conduct. What had happened was, this happened in Franklin County, by the way, and I have not been able to go back down there for court since then. What had happened was, it's kind of a crazy story. I was there with my so-called boyfriend for the weekend that I was going to go see, and it was me, him, his brother, and another female. We were just hanging out, and me and him had gotten into an argument, and I guess the neighbors had called the police because they thought it was a physical argument, which it was not. Now, when the cops came, he jumped out the balcony. I was extremely confused and didn't know what was going on or what his situation was. So I had said the house was mine and that I was staying there, even though I wasn't, which I know was wrong. And then when they searched through the house, they found a girl that was there, which was his brother's girlfriend, and supposedly she was underage. I didn't know she was underage. I couldn't even tell you the girl's name. I had no idea who she was. She was just there. Me and my boyfriend at the time were doing our own thing. But I have not been able to go to court in Franklin County to oppose or talk about it or anything like that because I do not have a car, and my mom's car is not able to go down there at this time.
Okay. I guess the concern, because this matter hasn't really, I mean, other than the charges that were brought, this matter hasn't really been resolved or adjudicated in any way.
Exactly.
And so it's difficult for us to know from a licensing standpoint what the ultimate outcome is going to be.
Right.
And so normally when there's something like this that's pending and it's brand new, our recommendation is to deny the license until that process has played itself out.
Okay.
If you go through the court process and, you know, you are found not guilty of that item, or you're, you know, maybe
it out?
plead something else, yes. Once that's finalized, you always have the option to reapply.
Okay.
And see how it shakes out. But, you know, I think that it's difficult for us to make a licensing decision on, you know, how responsible you might be being in control of an establishment by yourself if we don't know what the final outcome of this thing is going to be.
Which I understand, yes.
Okay. Pat, go ahead.
The material we were given says there is a conviction for supplying alcohol to minors, so that's not correct? There
That
was an
was one of the
arrest?
tickets I had gotten, was supplying alcohol to a minor, but I did
But has
not.
it gone through court and stuff?
No, I have not. That is in a
Okay,
completely
so
different
this is
county
not
hours away.
entirely correct, but it's
Well,
still.
if there's a
falsely correct.
conviction, isn't that conviction entered if for not showing up in court? Or how does that,
Yeah, I'm a little
idea.
I
confused
think if you
by
don't go
her
to court with the
conversation,
ticket,
if
you're
she-
automatically guilty.
I don't
They
know if she
they
had a
said that they were
court date
just sending
yet.
it to my credit collection, and that was just going to be settled until I talked to them. But I don't. That's
So you
that's
didn't
the last
show up
letter
for
I've
any
got.
of your court dates. Sounds like they found you guilty of that.
Oh,
Well, I don't know, I
I-
don't
I-
know, I don't have your details, you would
I
know best.
didn't bring the
but-
paperwork with me. I didn't think that I was going to need all of the tickets. I would have brought them in. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't talked to them. The last time I talked to them, they just told me to reschedule, which was supposed to be about 10 days ago, and I couldn't make it because I was working that day and I couldn't get off.
So do you or do you not have pending court date?
Not at this time, I suppose.
Why, I don't know.
No, not at this time. My last court date was supposed to be on the 6th.
Well, if they didn't reschedule a court date
That was
for
my
you and you
rescheduled
didn't
court date.
show up, then you would be guilty by default.
Okay.
But
My-
I'm
my
not really
recollection-
following
That's,
the
that
facts.
makes sense.
My recollection is when I reviewed the criminal history or the Department of Justice report, that there was a conviction for supplying alcohol to minors. Typically, when a citation is issued, which would be in this case, there'd be a court date that
Yes.
is written onto that citation.
Yes.
If you don't appear, then you're presumed to be guilty, and you're not fighting that citation, in which case they'll order a conviction on that specific piece. If there's adjoining criminal charges, then that's worked through a separate process, not through the citation. So those may be two separate but parallel issues.
Okay. I don't know. I haven't talked to them, and this is my first time getting a citation of this, what is the word I'm looking for? This extent, so I'm not really sure exactly how the court system goes or anything like that, but I have not gone, and the last rescheduled one was November 6th, and I did not appear, no.
Okay. And so then typically what happens is, at least what's been happening to people when this situation exists is the conviction having been entered into the record and it's being brand new. Normally, we want to see either one or two things. A process that either absolves you from that responsibility if
Okay.
if you were fighting the citation or whatever,
Right.
or some time that passes without subsequent violations. And
Right.
so, obviously not having the operator license doesn't mean that you can't work for a licensed establishment. You just
Right.
can't work there alone and be in control of the premises on your own.
Okay.
And so, absent a motion from the committee to pull the license off and consider it separately, if we leave it in with the batch, then what would happen is this go-round would be denied, but if something changes, you're certainly welcome to reapply.
Okay.
And if you go through that process down in the other county and something
something
positive
changes.
happens
Okay.
for you, you could certainly apply.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Tony. Yes, and so if the denial is upheld here, you'd also have the option then to appeal that denial to the full city council, which
Okay.
typically follows the committee recommendation, but under the ordinance, you definitely have that right as well.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
all right. Let's see, also on our list tonight, we had deferrals on 2 denials. From last time, we had Shar Conzella. Is Shar Conzella with us this evening? We had held action on hers, awaiting some additional information from her. And then also Bradley Sharkowitz, waiting for some answers from him. All right, Brad Sharkowitz, are you with us this evening? He is not. So let the record show that neither of those applicants have appeared tonight to finish the process. The committee, I guess, then has 2 options. You can hold action further, or you could just uphold the denials. I guess just as one committee member, I feel like if we hold action, waiting for some type of resolution, and then they don't follow through on that, denial's a denial, they can always reapply, but I don't know that we should hold these open for much longer. Maybe this will be the 2nd month for them. So those are in the batch recommended for denial tonight, right?
Correct.
Absent a different motion. Also, we have our special events. It looks like all the special events are listed, otherwise operator license renewals, et cetera, are all in the packet. And we approve or deny as a batch. So if no one else has any additional questions, I would accept a motion to accept or deny various licenses as recommended by staff. We have a motion by Peckham. Is there a second? Second by Lawrence. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, then members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed, so that motion carries. And then all of those licenses are either accepted or denied as per the recommendation. So the denials that we talked about tonight are denied, those three, and the rest are on their way. Next item on our agenda is to consider a request for a 90-day extension to open for business for good cause pursuant to Section 5.64.160 Sub B. Our applicant is Lemongrass Fusion LLC. You'll recall that Lemongrass is, I believe, working on getting open in the site that was formerly occupied on 3rd Street by Jay Gumbos. And we've got Mark Craig with us and the applicant, so welcome, gentlemen.
This is Lau. He's actually here from California. He's
Yeah.
the head chef.
I got in about 2 weeks ago. So
Oh,
it's,
just in time for the cold snap, so welcome
Very
to
true.
Wisconsin.
I heard it gets a little colder than this, so
The last couple weeks were pretty rough, though, so, but,
I got in a couple weeks ago, and then we were supposed to get the restaurant or the construction done in November, but from where it stands right now, I don't think that it's possible. But we are working very hard to get it done.
okay,
That being said, I believe the restaurant, the construction side, will get done around mid-December.
okay,
From there, as a chef, I would need at least about a month, give or take,
Yep.
to order all the stuff and then get our staff together.
and get them trained and whatnot.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's why I was coming today.
So you're
to
thinking
see.
sometime January-ish?
Yes.
Mid, okay.
Mid-January.
Okay, mid-January?
And it's looking beautiful. You're going to love it.
Awesome.
I can't
All
wait.
right. Good, good, good. Well, we're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Committee, what are your thoughts? Is there a motion to approve a 90-day extension for cause for Lemongrass? Go ahead. Okay, motion by Lawrence. Is there a second? Second by McElhaney? Go
How
ahead,
far
Pat.
would that get us out? That January or?
That's actually
February.
February.
Yeah, but when I spoke with the business owners, they said they're probably not going to need it that much. But I
Yeah.
told them to wait as late as possible for November, and then things
Right.
are going to fly by now and get organized and ready to go.
Fine with me?
Sounds good. All right. Members in favor, then, with a motion and a second on the floor, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion's approved.
Perfect.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Stay warm. Item number 4 is operations report from the fire department for October of 2019. You have copies of the report in your packets. We have Deputy Fire Chief with us this evening if there's questions for him on the report. Anything of note that you want to talk about?
Of course, at the beginning of the month, we had the incident in Schofield that we went down and assisted Riverside Fire District with.
With the Fulmer Street?
Yep, that then ended up with the shooting event in the city. That went well, as well as it could. I think that our response was working with the police went very well that day, given the circumstances. Other than that, the busy month for us, as you can see, we're over 450 calls in the city alone, over almost 480 for the month of October total. So we're on track to beat our record from last year, which was high there then. Other than that, the only thing of note is that we're having troubles with our engines right now. We're actually down to a 2-engine city right now. 2 of our engines are broke down and in the shop, and we're providing good fire protection through that by moving over to the ladder truck for a little while and using that as a pumper also. So,
Okay.
but other than that, fairly normal report. Any questions?
Does anybody have questions for Deputy Chief Bartek on the report? If not, we'll place his report on file. Thank you. All right. Item number 5 is tavern activities, compliance checks, and law enforcement activities, and you have that report in file as well. Pat, if you wanted to go ahead and ask the chief your question now about M&R, this is the time.
Yes. Can you,
So while we were sitting here, I sent an email to Mike. I don't know that we updated that, obviously, because it's not on the report, but we can certainly add that if that's your wish, to assess those
but
demerit
it
points to
seemed to me that
to
it was
M&R.
pretty clear that there were 2 violations, and one of them involved, it wasn't just, whoops, I guess we were open a little late. It was concealing somebody who was, like get down behind the bar quick
Sure.
type of a deal, which I feel is kind of above and beyond. So it seemed to me that there were 2 violations, not one, so.
Okay, I'll make sure I follow up
Consider
with
that, I
Mike. He's
guess.
got an email in his inbox now, so I'll follow up with him and,
Yeah, I think the
put that on the,
procedure
we'll
is,
assess it, and if there's a second violation, we can add those demerit points.
yeah, I think the procedure is that the committee looks at what the police department is recommending, and, we weren't there, so we can't tell you, but that's
We'll
something-
evaluate it.
something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, any other questions on the tavern report? If not, we'll place the police department's report on file as well. And so then item number 6 is communications. I have none. Does anyone have communications? And then go ahead, Pat.
Actually, if we could rewind a little bit.
Sure.
At the very tail end of the tavern report, there was one at the C&B Supermarket incident of November 2, and it said that an employee who was not the listed agent for the establishment refused to turn over video footage of the inside of the business during the incident. I'm wondering, is that their option to provide that for law enforcement? It's
Unless we have,
inside
unless
their
we have a
building.
search warrant, they wouldn't, we can't compel them to turn that over. However, I would say that the committee can take that into consideration should there be demerit points issued and a potential suspension or revocation of license as to their suitability for holding that license. But, we as a police department would not be able to actually compel somebody without a search warrant to turn over that video evidence.
I'm wondering, it seems like a serious thing to look a police officer in the eye and say, no, I'm not going to give you that video footage. I'm wondering if anybody went back and talked to the listed agent and checked to see if they agreed with that position.
Yeah, so I was made aware of this last week. My understanding is we are working on trying to make contact with the owners of the establishment, and that hasn't been the easiest thing is to make contact with them. So we are working on that to follow up with that. So I can report on that next month and let you know where that stands. The other thing, since you backtracked us a little bit, is we had an incident at Nooch's over the weekend as well. You'll see there is a report from last month in the report, and so we're going to be bringing demerit points probably to them as well because of an incident fight that we had there over the weekend. Where they had a big party, a lot of people there, fights, and lots of intoxicated individuals. So we'll bring that back next month as well.
Okay. Have you had a dialogue with the owner at Nooch's? I know when they first got the license and set up shop, you kind of did, but have we had,
Not since then.
given the fact that they are fairly new, and this is a kind of an alarming trend, I think before we get to the point of a formal expression of concern, it might make sense to try to circle back with that owner and remind him of the relationship that you're trying to build with them and, what your expectations are, because this is now the second or third time that you've had to be there with stuff like that going on.
Right.
So,
And I personally haven't had conversations with the owner, although I believe at each one of those incidents, the owner has been on scene and has talked with staff and officers. But I can reach out and have a meeting with him prior to next meeting,
Okay.
next public health and safety meeting.
okay. Yeah, so that, we can carry that over then for next time too. Okay, so we decided we didn't have any communications. We're done with the police report. We have one addendum on our agenda tonight yet to walk ourselves through. And I think I'm going to have Pat talk about this a little bit. Item 7 is discussion and possible action supporting passage by the Wisconsin State Senate of 8 bills dealing with homelessness issues. And you'll recall last Tuesday, we had a pretty contentious conversation about homelessness and, how our community is dealing with them and, what our future plans are. And out of that process, we promised the community that we would do our level best to do what we can do to find solutions, at least positive movement towards some solutions towards homelessness. And so the 2 days after that meeting, I had gotten an email from Pat who said, there's 8 bills waiting for Senate action down in Madison that may help communities address some of these things, and they're not getting that Senate action. And so we discussed the idea, we discussed that, and I guess I'll have Pat walk us through his conversation with Joe Volk about those bills.
Thank you. Joe Volk is the executive director of the Wisconsin Coalition Against Homelessness. He sent out an alert to board members like a week and a half ago, and it was a few days before the last day that the state Senate was going to be in session. And apparently he has got quite a network, because apparently the emails and other messages that he instigated generated a couple hundred calls to Senate offices. But there's a little politics going on, as one might imagine down there. There are enough votes. They're confident. Kind of the champion of this has been this Jim Steinecke of Kaukauna. And I did notice that one of the sponsors for, I believe, each of the bills is our own state assemblyman, Pat Snyder. So they were born during the Walker administration, while Rebecca Kleefisch was chairing this multi-agency task force. And they worked through, and they came to the assembly as one big kind of an omnibus package, and the assembly said, there's too much to pick through. So they split them up into 8 things. And I don't know the exactitudes of the whole thing, but they passed 8 bills and sent them to the Senate, and the Senate hasn't, the official explanation of why there was no action is that they haven't gotten out of committee, but we'll let that lay where it is. Anyway, they're going to be back in session in first or second week of January, and in order to have our expression of concern and support down there before that happened, Ms. Rasmussen kindly rushed this onto this week's agenda so we could get it in front of the city council. And I think the city attorney's office has done a bang-up job on the resolution and the supporting information, especially considering the short time. And so if we pass this tonight, I think I may send a copy of it down to Mr. Volk, and he might be able to get some other communities to follow suit and get the Senate to vote on these things. And they actually do have, I was impressed with all the different angles that they looked at and the things they discovered as when they were discussing these things at the interagency level, and I think they've got some very good stuff that should be enacted. So I think it'd be great if we pass this and if the council also passes it.
Okay. It's no secret that there's been tensions in Madison between the legislative representatives down there, as well as the state Senate and the governor's office. And so that transition and trying to work through that gridlock to get something done has been kind of a Herculean task, and they're not making a whole lot of headway. So I think that sometimes it helps to get things done down there when municipalities speak with one voice. And so when the council passes a resolution like this encouraging that some action be taken, that really, if we forward it to the council, would be the council speaking with one voice as a city to say, you know what, Madison, get back to doing the people's work a little bit and take some action on this stuff that could really help people or help us help people. So it makes sense that we would consider something like this. As a committee, we owe Tara a huge, huge thank you for getting this done. Ann did it? Okay. Tara was gone, and I really didn't think that we were going to get this done in time. I really thought that we would end up having to direct our legal office to create these documents for the next council meeting, but teamwork between all of them up there, and then pass along a huge thank you to Ann for us for getting this done. We'd like to take it to council on the 26th of November, so that it can be out the door of City Hall before the end of November, and hopefully get some action happening down there. Ms. Lawrence, go ahead.
Did any of you get a chance to go to the league meeting in Green Bay in October? And if so, was this, part of their priority agenda at all to get the legislation to?
I was not able to attend that this year. I know the mayor went, but I don't know if any other alders went.
Okay. It'd certainly be a good topic for them to take up, but it's
Absolutely.
too late at,
Right, right. It certainly would have been if they didn't. So, I think that, this really, it's hard for governments to solve social problems alone, but I think if we work together and there's things like this that can push through, the things that communities need and that nonprofits need to get services out, it certainly makes sense that we would support an effort like that.
And meanwhile, perhaps the mayor could contact the Lee, Wisconsin municipalities, and I'm pretty sure they're aware of this, but.
Okay. We could
And they-
ask him to reach out.
Yeah.
So, all right, that sounds good. Do we have a motion then to accept this resolution and forward it to council? Motion by Lawrence, second by Peckham. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? None are opposed, so that motion carries. This resolution then will go to council on November 26th, and if the council adopts it, we'll send it to all of our state representatives and hope that we can get some action or get our fellow peer communities to join us in such an effort and hopefully get something going. So with that, that's the last item on our agenda for tonight. Motion to adjourn would be appropriate.
Just 2 seconds. Can I
Oh,
just-
sure, go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
Mary just spoke to me. She said that you said the resolution says December?
The resolution in the packet says December 10th for council, so is it?
But that was 2019. Well, we would.
December 10th,
we had
2019, so we
held
want to
for-
bump it up?
Yeah, we had held it for the 10th,
Okay.
thinking that Tara would need some time to work through the,
But you want it to go the 26th?
if we can, the sooner the better.
Okay.
So we can get it down to them. So, yes, and if we could then expedite at least that section of the minutes.
Yep.
To go with, okay, awesome, all right. Motion to adjourn would be appropriate? I don't think we did, well, I thought we started, and then Tony queued up her mic, so, motion by McElhaney,
Tony
second by
ruined it.
Peckham. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, no one ever is. We'll stand adjourned, thanks, everybody.